Before you throw away a fishing rod because the epoxy around a guide has cracked, lifted, or failed, watch this first. This problem may look serious, but in many cases, the guide can still be repaired. The guide may not be broken. The real problem may be the old epoxy finish, loose wrapping thread, or poor bonding around the guide foot. With careful cleaning, fresh thread, proper epoxy, and correct alignment, you can make the guide strong and reliable again. The epoxy on a fishing rod guide has an important job. It protects the thread wrap, keeps water and dirt out, and helps hold the guide firmly against the rod blank. When the epoxy fails, you may see cracks, white lines, peeling, soft spots, or gaps around the thread. Sometimes the guide still looks straight, but when you touch it, it moves slightly. That is a sign that the wrap is no longer holding properly. This problem can happen for many reasons. The rod may be old, or it may have been exposed to heat, sunlight, salt water, or moisture for a long time. The rod may have been hit, dropped, or stored under pressure. Sometimes the original epoxy was applied too thick, too thin, or mixed poorly. If the thread was wrapped too loose, the guide can also move after a period of use. Do not keep fishing with a guide that has failed epoxy. A loose guide can change the line angle and reduce casting distance. It can also create friction and put uneven pressure on the blank. If water gets under the wrap, the guide foot may rust, especially after saltwater fishing. If the guide moves while fighting a fish, the line can rub badly or even break. A small repair now can prevent a bigger problem later. First, inspect the guide carefully. Check the guide ring, metal frame, guide foot, thread wrap, and epoxy finish. If the ring is cracked or the frame is bent, replace the whole guide. If the guide itself is still good but the epoxy and thread have failed, you can remove the old wrap and rewrap it. For this repair, prepare a sharp blade, wrapping thread, rod finish epoxy, masking tape, fine sandpaper, a clean cloth, rubbing alcohol if available, and a small brush or stick for applying epoxy. You may also need gentle heat if the old finish is very hard. Be careful with heat. You only want to soften the old epoxy slightly, not damage the rod blank. Start by removing the failed epoxy and old thread. Use the blade carefully and cut on top of the metal guide foot, not directly into the blank. This is very important. If you cut the rod blank, you can weaken the rod. Work slowly and lift the old thread away piece by piece. If the epoxy is too hard, warm it for a few seconds, then continue carefully. After the old wrap is removed, take off the guide and clean the area. Wipe away old epoxy, loose thread, dust, salt, and dirt. Check the guide foot. If it is rusty, rough, or bent, clean it or replace the guide. A smooth guide foot helps the new thread wrap sit evenly. If needed, lightly sand the guide foot and the blank surface. Do not sand too deep. You only want a clean surface for better bonding. Now place the guide back on the rod. Align it with the other guides by looking down the rod from the handle toward the tip. All guides should form one straight line. Use small pieces of masking tape to hold the guide in position. Take your time here. A strong repair still needs good alignment. If the guide is crooked, the fishing line will not travel smoothly. Begin wrapping the guide foot with thread. Start a short distance before the guide foot. Hold the tag end along the blank and wrap over it to lock it down. Keep the thread tight, smooth, and close together. Do not leave gaps. Continue wrapping up the guide foot until it is fully covered. If the guide has 2 feet, repeat the same process on the other side. To finish the wrap, use a small pull-through loop. Place the loop under the last few turns of thread. Make several more wraps. Cut the working thread, pass the end through the loop, and pull it back under the wrap. Trim the extra thread carefully. The wrap should look clean, tight, and even. Before applying epoxy, check the guide alignment one more time. Then mix the rod finish epoxy according to the instructions. Mix slowly to reduce bubbles. Apply a thin, even coat over the thread wrap. Let the epoxy soak into the thread and cover the edges. Rotate the rod slowly while applying the finish so it spreads evenly. Do not use too much epoxy. A thick coat can sag, look messy, and add unnecessary weight. Let the epoxy cure fully before using the rod. Do not rush this step. Common beginner mistakes include cutting into the blank, wrapping too loosely, using too much heat, applying too much epoxy, forgetting alignment, and fishing before the finish is fully dry. After curing, inspect the guide again. Make sure it is straight, firm, and smooth. Run the line through all the guides and check that it moves freely. With clean preparation, tight wrapping, proper epoxy, and patience, a fishing rod guide with failed epoxy can be repaired and ready for your next fishing trip.